myself.
No, who are you with? What band?
Oh, I'm here to interview Black Sabbath. I'm a journalist. I'm not a, you know.
You're not a what? You're not a what?
Not a groupie.
Groupie? We are not groupies.
This is Penny Lane, man. Show some respect.
Groupies sleep with rock stars because they want to be near someone famous. We're here because of the music. We are Band-Aids.
She used to run a school for Band-Aids.
We don't have intercourse with these guys. We support the music. We inspire the music. We're here because of the music.
Welcome to Back to the Frame Rate, part of the Weston Media Podcast Network, a weekly podcast discussing movie news, reviews, and recommendations. Our theme this week is movies with epic soundtracks, and we just heard a fitting scene from Almost Famous to set the mood for this week's show. Definitely a movie with a great soundtrack, and I can imagine it being an inspiration for James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy franchise with its nods to 70s rock and roll. In a little bit, of course, we'll be reviewing the latest from James Gunn's third and final installment in that franchise, and also offering up in our recommendation shelf segment a few more films that we recommend with some far-out soundtracks. I am Nathan Schur, and with me are Ellie Escobar, and filling in for Sam this week is Dan Martin.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hello.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Ellie.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you on the internet and never anywhere else.
I know. It's pretty scary, right?
Pretty
What
scary.
if he's a serial killer? Oh, by the way, you should know something about me. Nathan, tell him.
Well, her favorite genre is serial killer movies, and we're all very scared of this fact about her. And anything
nice.
where that movies where people kick butt, I think, and Jamie Lee Curtis movies, and what else?
Yeah, kickbacks. The blonde.
Yeah.
Atomic blonde.
Oh, the grosser the better for horror movies, man.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us this week. And I think we should kind of lay a little bit of foundation of who Dan is, why he's here. Dan and I have known each other for several years now. We go back a couple of years working together on some project, especially a play that we did together. But I think we have a lot of common interests in the film world and the theater world. And Dan, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Yeah. Hi. Hey. All right. I am Dan, and mostly, and then other times
Most of the time.
Most of the time I'm Dan. Sometimes I'm not.
We'll call you Dan the man.
I'm Dan the man. I'm what you would. I'm a stand-up comedian, and so
No
I do,
way. He's a
Yes.
stand-up. Well, I wouldn't. Oh, yeah. That
So-
makes all the sense now.
I am a stand-up comedian, and I also am an actor, mostly a character actor. I play lots of different characters and plays and shorts and stuff. But I've been doing stand-up for 15 years. Yeah, that's my thing.
Very,
Right.
very good stand-up comedian. And I've seen a lot of your comedic videos. I don't know. That's not the right way of putting it, but I've seen your
I've seen your adult funny movies.
I've seen your funny stuff on the tubes.
Yo, I thought this was PG-13.
And you could say adult funny movies in a PG-13.
Okay.
But Dan is a very, very funny man. I've worked with him. He upstages me anytime I am on stage with him. So
That's the goal. Although I've been upstaged, so I get it. But yeah, that's me, man. That's me in a nutshell.
well, we really appreciate you joining us tonight with us. And of course, you are a huge movie fanatic. And one of the reasons why you're here tonight, because I knew the movie we're reviewing tonight is probably something that's right up your alley. So,
Well, I mean, just the fact that it's a James Gunn joint. Had I not been interested in Marvel, which I am, but had I not been, the three movies I would have watched, the only three movies I would have ever watched, are James Gunn's movies. I've been following him since the days of Trauma, when he made Tromeo and Juliet,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to, I mean, his independent film that he made, The Supers, all the stuff he's done, right to when he got one of his first studio gigs and wrote the 2 Scooby-Doo movies, all the way up to now. I love this dude hardcore, and you got to watch, of course, for his Lloyd Kaufman cameos. For his Troma days, Lloyd Kaufman will pop up in his Hollywood movies and stuff. I've just been a huge fan of that camp. So, Sean Gunn, his brother, and then his cousin, they made that Brightburn. I can go on. I'm obsessed with James Gunn. So if nobody else ever made another movie, I could live off of James Gunn's movies. I don't need anybody else.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
See?
You must be a Guns fan.
Okay, yeah. Is that what you got from that? Good. Good. I got my point
so.
across.
I think you're a fan, Dan.
I'm a fan.
Right.
But it's gonna be an interesting show tonight.
Yes, it will be.
I just wanted to give a little background of how obsessed I am with
All
the
right.
man. Yeah, one of the best things you could do right now, you can find me on pretty much any platform except for Twitter, because that is a hellscape that I am no longer a fan of. But you can find me Dan Martin Comedy on Instagram. If you search Dan Martin Comedy on Facebook, you'll find my fan group. And then one of the best things you could do is if you're in Rhode Island, or if you can get your ass to Rhode Island on June 2nd, it's a Friday night. I have 2 shows, 7 p.m. and 9:30 p.m., back-to-back shows. Stadium Theater in Woonsocket, recording my second audio album, but adding the first time I've ever filmed a special. So it'll be filmed as well. It's called Raw Truth. It's going to be a heck of a night. So you can go to stadiumtheater.com and you can buy tickets to my comedy album recording. Do that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll mention a few things that I've been up to this past week. My older daughter, Chloe, is very much in the theater world as well. And she had her performance of The Little Mermaid that she was in, which is, I love seeing her blossom as an actress. And she had a wonderful time doing that. Wasn't a very big role, but she's in the 6th grade and she had a very small speaking role amongst all the 8th graders. And of course, the 8th graders get all the big roles in it, but she was the seahorse. And she had that big line that I can't say it because, not that I can't, but I don't remember how it goes, where she introduces Sebastian in the play with like Fionius, blah, blah, whatever that thing is. And she was in the ensemble, but she was in almost 4 scenes as part of the ensemble, and she had a great time doing that. So she is continuing to do more theater, which is wonderful, seeing her do that. And I really feel weird keep plugging myself, but I did hit a very big milestone with my feature film Higher Methods the past week. It finally is on Amazon Video Prime for purchase in rent, which is wonderful. About a week ago, it hit that platform. And it kind of feels like it is a big milestone, because that is one of the biggest marketplaces for a film to be available on. So I will put a link to that in the show notes, but it feels good to finally get that there. It's been a long, hard process, a long journey getting it there, but it's finally available on Amazon Marketplace. So that is huge.
Awesome.
On digital. And I posted a couple things on Facebook and Instagram about that, and just the people that have just come out of the woodworks saying they saw it on that platform and how much they enjoyed it. Just felt great seeing that there. So that's just really nice that that's moving along. And I also finished my short script that it's temporarily titled Right Now, which is kind of a spiritual sequel to a short that I did about 10 years ago now this month called Right There. They have nothing really in common, but I hope to be filming that late summer, maybe early September, late August. And yeah, I'm excited that I finally have another short film that I've penned that I hope to produce later this summer. So I'm excited that I got some things cooking. It's been a while.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And
Yay.
that's what I've been up to. Ellie, how about you?
Well, this week and the past week, since we didn't have our show this past week, let me see.
I should have mentioned that I apologize for missing last week, but there was other things. I'll just say that our schedules just weren't meshing.
Weren't mentioned, but in a way, I'm kind of thankful because I was suffering from a major sinus and allergies, and my voice was just horrible, and I just was horrible feeling, and so. And then I've actually been auditioning for different roles this week. I went from auditioning from a policewoman, to then a nurse, and then
You can be policeman, Ellie. It's okay.
I don't mind. I'll be whatever you want me to be. I'll be a monster too. Okay. Serial killer. Okay. No. So auditioning, I also found out that my short little tiny film that I created with two other actors was one of the seventh judges pick, I guess, for the festival. So
Awesome.
yeah, that's
Great.
pretty cool. I mean, I filmed that with my iPhone 13 Pro Max, and then I edited it with iMovie. So, and the other two actors are out of state, and I didn't know how hard editing is until I had to edit the sequences and put the angles right so it looks right. But yeah, so it was it was fun to do it. It was a challenge, and I loved it. What else? No, I just been watching a lot of movies, and guys, because I'm a
Where
movie.
can people see your short?
It's not released yet because it's in
In the festival?
Yeah.
circuit. But that kind of makes me think that what if I had the right equipment and we're all in the same state? So I don't know. I like the film thing making, but I think I love acting more. But it's good to know everything about it. So when I'm on set, I would be able to you know, just to understand everything from the director's point of view, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and let me see what else. That's it. Nothing more than that. Just working.
All right. Let's move on to our weekly watches and kind of go over what we've been watching over the past week or so. I'll mention first. I watched a Freevee original. Anybody actually here aware of Freevee?
Mm-mm.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so Freevee.
Oh, I have, yeah.
Freevee was formerly known as IMDb TV, and they changed the way it's known to Freevee, which I don't know why. They just decided that Freevee is just better.
Because it's free TV.
Free
It's
TV, Freevee. Anyway, so what I watched was
free V,
called
everyone.
Jury Duty. It's the first original I've ever seen on this streaming service. So Freevee isn't really known widely for their prestige content. And I think I've shared on this podcast before that in my past life, I used to work in the world of reality TV. And it's kind of my dirty little secret. I used to live in Los Angeles, and I was making my nut working in the industry. So I can be transparent about this at this stage of my life, and I loathed working on those shows back then, but it did teach me a lot about working in the industry and on big productions. Jury Duty isn't a reality TV show, but it kind of is a little bit. The show is delivered kind of in the same style as The Office or Parks and Rec style workplace comedy. It's got these quirky characters. Each one is being interviewed about how they feel about the case that they're on, and the other jurors, they have to spend time with them. But and then there's like wacky stuff that's going on during this trial. It's pretty funny. All the jurors, of course, are actors except for one. One of the jurors is a real person who thinks he's serving his mandated jury duty. I should also mention that one of the jurors serving on the jury is James Marsden, who's playing himself in the worst probably version of himself you could possibly imagine. He's like an absolute jerk in this. So the real person thinks that James Marsden is serving jury duty with him. It's pretty funny, actually. So, like I said, I really hate reality TV with a passion, and this is sort of treading on this thin line where all these cameras are hidden in the rooms where they're deliberating the case. But I had a really good time with this. It has some of those reality TV tropes, but I would say its foot is firmly in the door of like workplace comedy more than is reality TV, because all of the other jurors, are all actors, and there's some crazy shenanigans that are more like The Office, Parks and Rec than anything else. So I had probably more fun with the show than I probably should have. It's only 8 episodes long. They're like 22 minutes long each one, and it was a short, brisk, fun watch. So I watched the whole thing like in like 5 days. It was a lot.
What a weird thing to say. I had more fun than I should have.
I should have, because
what a self-hating thing to say. Like, why shouldn't you have any fun?
You know why? Because every time I watch the episode, I am not going to keep watching this. I kept saying this is the last one I'm watching because should not be good. But it kept impressing me.
It brought you joy.
It did.
It brought you enough joy to enjoy it.
Because
therefore, you had as much fun, Nathan.
Yes.
As you should have.
Yes.
Okay, you had an appropriate amount of fun.
Because I never expected to like this. And I kept thinking to myself, how can I be enjoying this? But I did.
It's just weird the stuff people say.
Yeah.
Like when people like something, they're
the concept.
What a guilty pleasure. If it's guilty, why you do it?
I'm not saying it was a guilty pleasure. I was just surprised. Why am I liking this? But I'm liking it.
Just as a comedian, I listen to people talk and they say things like, I had more fun than I should have, or it was a guilty pleasure.
No. I mean, it's like when I watched The Killer Tire. Like, I knew it was like, why would I sit and watch The Killer Tire?
If somebody Rubber?
Rubber, yes.
Yeah, Rubber. I'm just saying, if somebody pitched me the show, awesome. I would say I will never watch that. But I was impressed that I enjoyed this. So I guess that's how I am explaining it. I guess justifying it to myself.
I feel like that's great.
And I would recommend it. It was fun. What else? I watched. I got around to watching what was one of my most anticipated films of the year, Renfield, not that long ago. This is the Chris McKay directed horror comedy starring Nicholas Hoult as the titular character and Nick Cage as Count Dracula. Now, I had such high hopes for this film originally. The trailer curbed those expectations significantly, and seeing the film pretty much put a stake in the heart of all of it. I really did not enjoy this film that much. I think it's extremely
I don't know that film.
Problematic. What was that, Ellie?
I don't know that film.
Renfield,
Yeah, I mean, it was a big release, but it pretty much tanked and it was in and out of the theaters pretty fast.
Yeah.
I think the tone for this film is what was the problem. It's kind of all over the map. Nicholas Hoult is pretty much the lead in this. He was great in Fury Road. But the problem is with this, it's kind of leaning into action comedy. And I don't think the action is anything special or original in this movie. And I would have loved it if it was leaning more into absurdist comedy. I think that's what this movie needed to be. You got Nick Cage in this movie, and he's not even going as big as he could have in this. So I was quite disappointed in this. What I thought was cool, and I don't think it's much of a spoiler, they did this kind of this fun deep fake thing where they have Nicolas Cage in the very beginning of this movie, and they shot the stuff where he's on a set from 1931 era, like Bela Lugosi footage, Universal horror movie footage, where this is actually a continuation of the 1931 original Dracula. I didn't realize that was the concept of this. It is the same character. What happens to them if they continue that storyline to the modern day? I think that's a great concept. It's just that it's not fun and wacky and crazy. It really is an action comedy with heavy leanings into the action, which I didn't find all that appealing. So no, not that great. So
You didn't have as much fun as you should have.
no. And the other thing I'll just mention is, so is anybody here a New York Dolls fan?
The band?
The band.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am a huge New York Dolls fan. They are one of
I don't know if it was a weird strip club or if you're talking about the band.
They're
I had no idea what he's talking about. 'Cause I don't know.
they're one of my all-time favorite bands.
They're like a kind of like a punk hair metal-y band.
Yeah, they're I'd say many circles are thought of as the godfathers of the punk rock movement.
Of punk, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A few years ago, I hosted a podcast called The ABCs of Rock, and I even dedicated an entire episode to my love for this band. So out on Showtime and on their on-demand service, I don't know if it's called Showtime Anytime or what it's called right now, but there is a new special documentary called Personality Crisis, One Night Only. It's basically
Nice.
David Johansen, who's the lone surviving member of the band, putting on a show in this intimate venue in New York City. And he's intermittently telling stories to this very small audience. In the audience is actually Deborah Harry from Blondie, who's there, which is kind of cool. So in some ways, it's this modern day VH1 storytellers. The special includes interviews from David from all different eras of his career, his time with the Dolls, his solo career where he adopted the persona of Buster Poindexter. It's got loads of archival footage and photographs. I'm a sucker for concert docs, and I just really found his story, David's story, is a fascinating one. He's a trailblazer, a survivor, and an icon to the New York counterculture scene of the 70s. So this was a really great documentary, and I highly recommend this to fans of their music, fans of 70s punk rock, classic rock, glam rock. And did I mention that this was directed by Martin Scorsese? So yeah, this is worth checking out.
So it's 6 days long, and and everybody has a Boston accent. I'm a huge fan of I almost said Boysta. Buster Poindexter era and all that stuff. I love that dude.
Good stuff. And it's not just really the New York Dolls. It's really about David Johansen. It's not just New York Dolls music. In fact, he's mostly playing stuff from his solo career.
A lot of stand-up comedians are talking about that documentary.
Yeah, it's really good.
A bunch of people.
And it was shot in January of 2020, just before COVID hit, and it's kind of this interesting vibe to the whole thing because you know what's just around the corner, and they make reference to that a couple times in the documentary because it's this really small, intimate venue, maybe 40 people in the room that he's singing and talking to in this. So it was kind of surreal watching this whole thing. So that's what I have been watching. Ellie, you want to share what you've been seeing?
So I watched a few films this weekend. I went to there's a series on HBO. Is it HBO? Yeah, I believe it's HBO. It's Love and Death
Hmm.
with, I forgot her first name. She's one of the Olsen kids. Let me see.
Elizabeth Olsen.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
It's
Yes.
Elizabeth.
Probably the
And
irrelevant Olsen now.
Elizabeth Olsen, Jesse Plemons.
She's the best
Uh,
Olsen.
yes, she is. And let me tell you, I am a real great. Such a fan of hers right now because of this series. She's such a great actress in this film, in this series. I love her in this character. She's witty, she's smart, she's a killer of all things. But I'm not gonna say too much. Just if you have not seen it, this is one of those series that you want to see. Honestly, you have to watch. This series is bomb. Okay, next one. I keep watching the Succession.
Yeah, that's nearing the end of its
C-section?
season.
Did you say C-section?
C-section, Succession.
Oh, Succession.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Like I
I
keep
lo-
watching C-sections on YouTube.
Where's your mind then, the man? No, we're not having C-sections here today.
Sounds good.
But I could think of a movie that could be gruesome. Okay, no. All right. Anyway, the next thing I watched is where's my stuff? Air.
Oh, the sneaker movie.
Yeah, that was really good.
That's on
It's on
Prime now,
It's
right?
on Prime
Yep.
TV. It's free. If you have a subscription, it's free. Great movie. Well done.
Movie about
Eric,
sneakers. How's the soundtrack? A lot of soul music.
you know, the soundtrack is really good. Actually, I really loved it.
It was a pun.
I loved it. It's a great soundtrack too.
Yeah, no, I get it. It was a pun.
Watch The Mother. The Mother.
I've
with
heard
Jennifer
some-
Lopez.
The Mother, yeah.
I've heard some good things about the mother.
Yeah. I heard
Yeah.
That's with Jennifer Lopez, right?
Yeah, and there's two other actors there. I don't know. I can't think of their names right now.
Is that
But they're not
Netflix?
Netflix.
Yeah.
But the actors are not important because J Lo is important in this movie anyway.
The
So-
actors are not important because J-Lo. Okay.
The male actors. I mean, no, just kidding. They're great. They're great. But J Lo impressed me in this film, and she usually, I loved her. I love watching for feel good movies, her married movies and whatnot. But this movie, she was badass.
Cool.
Okay, and I loved it. And it's mother lion protecting her daughter, and I'm with that. I'm with that. And then A Man Called Otto
Oh, I heard about that too.
on Netflix.
Yeah.
I am a fan of oh my god.
I'm interested in going back to the mother
The
because
Mother?
I didn't realize that this is Nikki Caro is the director who did
Mhm.
North Country in Whale
Mhm.
Rider, which are
Great
from
movie.
a long time ago, but two really, really good movies.
All things I haven't seen. I've never seen those.
Yeah. I recommend The Mother.
And
it
McFarland
was-
USA. Wow. She did Mulan a
haven't
couple years ago too, which I didn't see that. But yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were talking
Yeah.
about a man called Otto.
A Man Called Otto. Let me tell you about A Man Called Otto. I really loved it. But what I love most of this movie, aside Tom Hanks, it's Mariana Trevino, the woman that plays Marisol in this film. She's a Hispanic woman actress. I love her character. I love her acting. She was funny. She was caring. She was loving. She made me cry. She made me laugh. And she breaks Otto in the movie. Otto is an old man.
Mhm.
They get very cranky, and his wife has passed, and he's now lost his job because when you get old, that's what happens. You get they kind of don't need you anymore at the company that you worked for years and years, and they let you go. So he's a really bitter old man, and comes Mariana Trevino, Marisol, with her family, and totally changed his world to the point that her kids call him abuelo, which means grandpa. Uh, it's a good family movie. I loved it.
Nice.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
It only got like 7.6 stars. I mean, 4 stars.
that's not bad.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Ellie. Dan, what would you like to share?
Been a little boring this week, but not really. So the things that I've been watching, one thing that I don't really defend because I don't really care what people think, but you mentioned other people say, "Oh, my guilty pleasure." One of my favorite things is sitcoms. They're my favorite, like real sitcoms, like legit multicams, like Married with Children, stuff like that, like multicam sitcoms,
Mhm.
not like
Yeah.
Jim from The Office smirking at the camera type stuff. Not that I don't like. I actually don't like The Office, but I like whatever. Your breath inward taking does not offend me, mean anything to me. But one of my favorite sitcoms is kind of the last multicam. It is the last multicam, and it was The Big Bang Theory. And that show, speaking of having more fun than you should have, that show should not have lasted as long as it did. And it even survived the writer's strike. 2 pilots. It went through so much stuff. So I had seen it all on TV, and then I had watched it all through on borrowed DVDs from the library, and then I watched it all the way through on HBO Max, and now I'm on my 4th time through it. I bought Big Bang Theory, the book they wrote, that kind of details all of the years. And then I bought the box set. I splurged not too long ago. So I've been watching The Big Bang Theory. I'm on season 4. It is fantastic. Another thing that brings me pleasure in sad times, and I've been having some sad times, is Adventure Time. The cartoon show Adventure Time. Now that show is so wonderful, so much heart and soul. The animation is beautiful. The voice acting is top notch. You know, you got my favorite comedian does voices in the show, Maria Bamford, and then they'll have other people in and out, like John Katz, and John DiMaggio is the voice of Jake. He's amazing. Pendleton Ward, great creator. So I've been watching a lot of Adventure Time. Bought the box set during the pandemic, and I haven't started watching it till recently. I'm also on season 4. It's keeping pace with Big Bang, I guess. And I've just been watching those as kind of like go-to, bucket fillers, like filling my buckets, my soul buckets. I get a lot of crap from stand-up comedians for liking The Big Bang Theory, but stand-up comedians are idiots, so it's fine. Everyone loves Adventure Time, so I'm not really taking a risk there. And then the other thing I did this week, because I did want to do something new, was I watched Scream 6. And I loved it.
Yeah. Excellent. I am yet to see Scream 6. I mentioned it before we recorded that I marathoned the first 5 Scream movies in the past about a month ago, and I'm still trying to catch up on the 6th one. Ellie, I know you're not a Scream fan, but trying to catch up to all of them. Me and Sam were both, our goal was to see all the Scream movies and do our own little review of Scream 6.
Great movie, great kills, great script. The first 40 minutes are better than most movies that have come out in the past 6 years. Like just the first great 20 minutes are just amazing. 20 to 40 minutes. I mean, Scream 5 was dope. Scream 6 is doper. It is just a great continuation
Okay. I feel like they've been kind of up and down the last few. But I'm hearing very good things about the sixth one. So
I think they are all good in their own right, and the new ones are just phenomenal. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but people probably do. But the show that was made for MTV has 3 sequels, has 3 seasons, and that show is fantastic. Again, it's just Scream as a TV show with all new blood, pun intended, and it's got some canon, some great nods to the OGs. It is just fantastic if you want some stuff that's like not the first 4 Scream movies, but not the new ones, and you want to just fill in some Scream time with Scream time. I just came up with that. 3 seasons. I don't know where it is now. It was all streaming somewhere. You'll have to Google it. I'm not your mother. Figure it out. It's awesome.
Good. Very good. Okay. So that's what we've been watching the past week or so. Let's check in with Sam.
Hello, Back to the Frame Rate audience. Sam Cole here. I'm a carpenter on the set of Back to the Frame Rate. We are going for the Tim the Toolman Taylor home improvement look. Anyway, I'm just phoning in to say that as of right now, I just got back to Los Angeles, just landed at LAX and got home. I've been in Bali, Indonesia for the past 2 weeks, a spectacular adventure. After 4 days, I adapted to driving riding, I should say, a moped, motorbike / scooter out there. I've been very comfortable on a moped for several years, and it's really the way to get around there. The traffic is crazy, the driving is crazy, but I adapted really quickly. I highly recommend renting one if you ever go there, but don't learn how to ride a moped there for the first time. It is intermediate driving for sure. But Bali is so spectacular, I'm still processing the trip. Mount Batur, an active volcano, hiked up to the summit of that for sunrise. Took a Jeep out into the lava fields, many adventures, lots of scenery. Bali really has it all, from urban areas to completely rural, exotic mountainous jungle areas, cavernous waterfalls. I've never seen anything like it in my life. One of the most spectacular locations ever. We're shooting my YouTube series there, Walks of World. My handle is Walks of World 1981. And I am back in Los Angeles for exactly 24 hours before I drive all the way up to Washington State to attend a friend's wedding. Why am I driving up to Washington State? I'm glad you asked. Shouldn't I just fly there? Isn't that a ridiculously long drive? Well, I'll tell you why I'm driving. Because I'm going to drive up there fast, get to the wedding, have a great time, but on the drive back, there are so many beautiful locations in the Pacific Northwest that it is spectacular material for my YouTube series. I'm going to film more stuff. So the train does not stop. Sam Cole keeps moving. Sam Cole is looking forward to returning to Back to the Frame Rate for next week's recording. And it's going to be great. We're going to be discussing a Spielberg classic, War of the Worlds from 2005. Anyway, hope you all are having a great day. Talk to you soon. This is Sam Cole, USS Nostromo, last surviving crew member, signing off. The Star Trek theme was not appropriate there for Alien, but you know what? I'm mixing and matching because I'm jet lagged and out of my mind. Bye.
Let's move on to our featured review, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
We were gone for quite a while. But no matter what happens next, the galaxy still needs its guardians.
Hello, we come in peace.
Come on, Drax. Seriously, dude?
No! Ow!
Don't forget.
we came from.
We have been running our whole lives. Pete, I'm done running. We'll all fly away together. One last time. Into the forever. That beautiful sky.
All right, we just heard a clip from the trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is the third and final installment of the franchise, directed by James Gunn. And what we do here, Dan, is we each kind of share some basic spoiler-free initial thoughts on the movie, and then we will have a little bumper, and then we will dive into our spoiler discussion of the film. Who would like to begin sharing their thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
Dan.
Dan? Dan, how about you begin?
Volunteering the new guy?
Yeah, we'll throw you right in there.
Throw me right in there.
Yeah.
Here's what I thought of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, folks. Focus on this. Yeah. Man, what can I say if we're not in the spoiler part yet? Like, come on. Okay, so I'll just say this. If you keep the stuff in from the beginning, you know I'm a James Gunn fanatic. Dude can do no wrong. That said, he hasn't done wrong yet. I'm sure he could do wrong. I'm skeptical of everybody, okay? I'm sure he'll mess up soon. But until he does, until he gets canceled, for now, he's still amazing. No, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was phenomenal, in my opinion. My thoughts on it, it was such a great crescendo of everything from the first two movies to the little splashes you get in the Infinity Saga to the little splashes you get in Thor, Love and Thunder, seeing the continuation of these characters. And my God, there were some things that I can't say it, but there were some things having to do with some characters that I was wondering as reading the comics as I did from the 70s and 80s. I was just wondering what they would do with certain thing, and it was phenomenal the direction they took and the character they chose to spotlight. And James Gunn is a phenomenal writer. I follow him on Instagram. There's parts of the movie where his friends and other fans will say, like, hey, did so-and-so improv this line? And James is like, no, that's the way I wrote it. And that's what I love about James Gunn, because even the little things in the movie that people think, oh, the actors must have added that or peppered that in, or he covered every moment. He thought of every joke. He covered every story. He didn't miss a beat. And this movie is, if you're a Guardians of the Galaxy fan, if you're a Marvel fan, he didn't miss anything. He didn't leave anything out. He didn't leave anything for you to wonder about. He didn't leave anything out for you to guess. He tied up every end. He put a nice bow and button on every plot line, and even the stingers are just, oh my God, what's next? Because this doesn't mean it's just because James Gunn is done, it doesn't mean the characters are done. So phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with much of what you said, Dan. Ellie, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes. The show had just started and we had a fire alarm going on in the cinema, so we had to leave the cinema.
By the way, did you see this at the Dedham
Deluxe
showcase? Yes, I'm gonna share something as well. I know.
Oh, you do? Yeah. And we bought the tickets for the deluxe sitting, like the really expensive ones. And just as it started, the alarm goes off. and we had to step outside for a good, I want to say maybe 45 minutes.
Wow.
And then we had to go back in. And then at the end, they gave us another set of free tickets for another movie later, which we're going to use pretty soon. So for the same type of sitting, deluxe.
Yep.
But aside that, which when it stopped, I told my son, is this part of the movie?
The fire alarm?
Yeah. I was like, wait, Carlos, is this part of the movie? And Carlos looks at me like, Mom, it's not. I'm like, oh, okay.
Like a real 40X experience where they escort you outside and you thought like the spaceship was going to land and take you away.
Literally the hottest movie of the summer.
I know, right? And it's like, but before that, we had an ordeal because to go into the cinema deluxe, you have to have your ID with you. And Carlos didn't have his. So we almost didn't even go in there. Anyhow, but to the movie, oh, I loved it. I loved all of the Galaxy, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies from the first one to the second to the third. Being the first one is my favorite always as well. But what I loved about this movie is just so much heart and emotion in this movie for me. And I love that Gunn, oh my God, I love that he made I was going to say the squirrel. Oh my God, the raccoon. I was going to say Rocket, the raccoon, the center. He gave Rocket the center stage, I feel, for this movie. And I love how he brought to the movie how horrible we can be to animals.
Oh, no spoilers yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. And okay, so I can't really say much without saying much.
No spoilers.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right, so I'm just gonna say I really loved the movie. I'm not sold in the soundtrack too much. I don't know, but I loved the theme of it and the emotion and the heart. And
I will say I feel like they phoned the soundtrack in.
They what?
They phoned it in.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on the soundtrack too.
Phoned it in. What does that mean?
It means that they just banked on any song that they put in.
Yeah,
was epic because of the other ones, and they just didn't put as much effort into it. I think
I think the soundtrack was the least of the three movies. I liked the songs a lot, but I was going to mention this later when I was going to mention it, but I feel like they don't necessarily sync with the movie as well.
Yes.
One song was amazing.
What? Which one?
And the Flaming Lips.
That?
Do you realize? Yeah.
Yes. But that felt like something that, yes, I absolutely agree. 100%.
I loved everything about the movie. Even though I didn't like the soundtrack too much, I still loved the movie. I think I agree with James Gunn. He just did a wonderful job with all these three movies, and I don't think no one can top this. They can't top it. They can't top it, and it's forever. This movie is forever in my heart. Like I could watch this again and again and again. So that's what I'm gonna say, and then spoilers.
Mm-hmm. So I like this film a lot as well, but I have some mixed thoughts on a few things in here. I'm not in love with it maybe as much as the two of you are.
Boo.
Yes. Well, I'm going to start with a couple nitpicking pot shots at this.
Ugh,
not that I don't things that I don't like, but I do need to share some things. First of all, I felt like the darker themes of this film made it overall slightly less enjoyable than the previous two Guardians films. It wasn't the same let the good times roll vibe that I was feeling from the first couple movies, and I think that had a lot to do with what the story was here, with it being central around the Rocket character. And I'm not going to get much more into that because I don't want to talk about spoilers yet. But there was such a heavy emotional weight that burdened this film from the very first frame of this, compared to Guardians 1 and 2, where the film started off with dancing and great 70s bubblegum rock classics. It starts off with this acoustic version of Creep by Radiohead, which set the tone for this film. And Peter Quill is mourning over Gamora, and everything has this dour mood. And of course, from there, the movie picks up with some great action, but there's this tone of the movie and the events that take place over the first 10 minutes of the film that set the plot forward that are just really dark. And I'm really not having like fun with this.
I thought it was the correct tone.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But I'm not having like, wow, this is just a great, enjoyable ride for large swaths of the first act. I thought, and we already talked about the soundtrack, but I'm really saying that. I mean, I like the songs that were in this, but I
hate Radiohead with a passion.
But I really felt a disconnect, and I want to emphasize there's a real disconnect with the music in this movie. Definitely the weakest of the three movies for me when it came to the music. However, I was grinning from ear to ear when I heard some Chuck Mosley "Air of Faith No More" come up, and I do love that song. I like that moment. The High Evolutionary. I'm not going to get into deep spoilers on this. I thought his character was fascinating, a good villain in theory, and I'll wait until spoilers to fully explain my reasoning. And he was played by I think Chikwudi Iwuji is how you say his name. And I loved his character in the first half of this film. I get his plan. I'm vibing with him. But the second half of this film, I was not into him at all. I felt like he had the temperament of my daughter when she wasn't getting her ice cream fast enough.
But that's the point.
But I'm just saying, it was like, I was like, I'm over
So
it.
you didn't like it because it reminded you of the Terrible Twos, but that's exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yep. And I'm just saying it wasn't.
You dislike how effective the film was. That's what.
Well, I'm saying I was like, I got tired of seeing him and his shtick.
Yeah.
Wait, who was this you said? Who was it?
The High Evolutionary character, the villain.
Oh,
big
the villain.
bad.
Okay.
And okay, so I'm done pointing out negative things because despite those things, I really did enjoy this film. I thought it offered enough laughs, thrills, and emotional gut punches to make this probably the most memorable MCU movie from Phase 4 and Phase 5 since the Infinity Saga era. It's probably my second favorite film since after Spider-Man No Way Home. And it wasn't necessarily, I don't think it was necessarily the Guardians movie that I expected, but it was probably the Guardians movie that I probably needed for the send-off that we're getting for these characters. So I really did overall like this. I don't know where I rank this with the movies because I do really love the first one and I like the second one possibly just as much. And I think I have to sit with this for a little bit longer. Where would you put this compared to how would you rank them 1 through 3?
I think the quality of this movie, it's tough because the quality of this movie, the CGI was flawless. The script was very tight, very well paced. I hate Radiohead. I really do. Hate them. I thought the Beastie Boys song was fun because I love the Beastie Boys.
And I thought that took me out because I don't need to hear, was it No Sleep Till Brooklyn?
It was definitely No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
And that was such a cliche, obvious song. I don't know. I could have heard any other song in that scene.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Not as fun as the Nirvana song in Captain Marvel. That was amazing. But the soundtrack sucked. It did. I hate to say that. But it sucked donkey balls. It was not. It just didn't. When I hear Radiohead's Creep, I make fun and I say I hate. I dislike Radiohead. I don't. I say hate, but like that's like a lot of energy. I just don't like the band Radiohead. Anything Radiohead turns me off, so I don't listen to them If they come on my random playlist, I burn my car down. I get a new car. I have to get a new car. No, I skip this. I can't do Radiohead. So when it's the first song of the movie, it's like I've been so excited to see this movie for years, just waiting for this movie, and that's the first song, and I'm like, I'm gonna hang in there because it's Guardians. But legit, if that was anything else, I would have changed it. I would have changed, you know what I mean? If I was at home and I put that movie on and Radiohead, I would have fast forwarded. Like, I just can't hear that song, man. And
it's how I feel about Love Shack.
Right? It's like there's certain songs where it's just like nailed on a chalkboard, just like can't do it. But man, I spent a lot of time.
There's one song I did like is Reasons by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
Reasons.
So there are some hits in there, but like again, so it's hard for me because music is such a big part of my life. As most people,
because they spoiled us with the first one too. I feel like the first Guardian soundtrack for me, I really loved. It just got me in there.
If you take music out, because this movie really wants me to take music out of the equation, and I'll tell you why. Because it's such a effing great culmination of everything Guardians. It's one of the best scripts in the MCU in the past 20 years. Like, it is the best script in the MCU. It's my opinion, so it's correct to me. You know what I mean? Opinions can't be right or wrong, right? They're just opinions. And in my opinion, which is right for me, it is the best script in the entire MCU. Hollywood isn't pumping out scripts like this. Like, it's just really such a good script. And it's better than the other scripts. It's better than the other scripts. It's better than the first one. It's better than the second one. It's dark. It's emotional. It has romance and loss, and it's just so dank, and you can sink your teeth into it. You can laugh. You can cry. It's the best script. So it's number one as far as the script goes.
Yeah.
The other ones are great. I love like that feeling like of having a blast and the soundtrack. So the first movie would be number one if you based it on the soundtrack and the feelings. And the second movie would just be the first movie again with some pepper in it. And it's great. But this movie stands out because this movie is not that. This movie is the Guardians, but it's not the Guardians. And then to come full circle at the end, it's the Guardians again. This movie's number one. And the other ones are both number two.
And I think I agree with Dan because I think that what Gunn did is I feel like he brought me full circle with the end of this movie. I don't think if you've gone any other way, it would have felt like I'm watching at the beginning again. And he really made me feel like this is the end of the trilogy. And so I feel if he changed anything, even the darkness of this movie, it wouldn't have worked. I would have felt like, okay, there's going to be another one or something like that.
Well, to that point, a lot of sequels, like Guardian, a lot of sequels kind of just are kind of like previously on the Guardians, and you kind of get like a lot of times sequels are kind of recreating an origin as well. So it's like you get the origin movie, then you get the sequel that's a continuation of the origin movie, and it kind of goes a little further. This movie didn't spare any time with origins. You're established. He didn't waste too much time on a backstory. He gave you a new backstory, but it was actually like, even though it was a backstory, it was happening at this in real time. Like, it was just like a great glimpse into the rest of the crew.
I'm gonna pause the conversation here. Let's get to spoilers so we can talk about everything in this movie here. So we are in spoilers for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. First thing I want to share about this has something to do with my experience watching this film. Ellie, you mentioned that while you were watching this, you had a fire alarm go off.
Mhm.
I was at the same theater on the day after you because I was at
That's so weird.
the Dedham Showcase. And
Oh my God.
so I'm watching this movie a week ago. And the moment that the Guardians arrive at the Orgoscope satellite space station, the title lower third comes up explaining where they are, the movie cuts out completely, goes black, and everyone in the theater is staring at a black screen. And we're just all staring at each other, wondering, is this part of the movie? And of course we're all like, I'm thinking the moment I get up and tell the manager that something is wrong, of course the movie's going to come back on. And I've been waiting for this movie for years, and I'm not going to miss something here. So I'm going to wait this out. It's going to come back on. 10 minutes go by. Eventually, one of the patrons does go out and comes back in, and he says, hey, they're working on it. They're going to fix it. And eventually, it comes back on. But it's not the movie. It's the pre-roll showcase entertainment, like, hey, the popcorn's popping and get your drinks. Are you kidding me? Are we gonna have to start this movie all over again? And I have to get home. Like, I can't start this movie over again. And then all of a sudden it stops.
So annoying.
And then the next thing I see is that all the Guardians are together. Gamora's there, and they're having the conversation on the surface. They're on the spacesuits, and Peter Quill and Gamora are having that conversation with the intercoms. And like,
so they skip,
what's going on? Where did Gamora come from? What is going on? And I am like, I'm so pissed. I'm like, I know I missed something huge, because all of a sudden they're reunited. They're having this conversation like, we were something, we used to be a thing. And then there's that awkward, anyways. So I finished the movie and I go out to the theater manager. And I explained to him, I've been waiting for this movie for a long time, and I'm really disappointed that it's clear that I missed part of the movie. And I actually explained that I'm reviewing the movie for a publication. And this is what publication? Actually, I dropped them. I dropped that. Yeah, Back to the Frame Rate. We have a podcast. And I need to, and he explained, how many were in your party? And I stupidly said only one. I should have said there were 8 of us. He gives me a comp ticket. And I actually asked, did anyone else mention anything? Now, there were about 40 people in my screening. And I'm really disturbed because he said that nobody complained at all that they missed part of the movie. I am just outraged that many people just walked out and they didn't even care that they missed 10 minutes. I'm guessing because here's the thing. I watched it again over this past weekend to see what I'd missed. And I realized I missed the entire scene with Peter and Mantis, where they had the conversation about how come you never wanted to reunite with your grandfather. The whole scene where Gamora Nebula contacts gets the Ravengers to come.
She contacts them off camera.
But with that whole interaction where we get Sly Stallone, that whole interaction where they reunite for the first time. There's so much that
you missed 8-9 minutes.
Yeah, easily. And I was guessing about that much time, but all of these.
Well, I remember you texted me and asked me, and I filled you in, and you were like, "What?"
But it just means that there are 40 other people that watched this film, and their enjoyment of this film must have been seriously tainted by missing these 10 minutes or so. They just didn't care, and I'm outraged by this.
It means that those people, right?
And
don't speak up. They don't like themselves.
I'm getting to my point. It's not that they don't care, but the problem is the theaters aren't going to get better if theater patrons don't voice our displeasure when they're served a poor quality experience. And it bothers me that only one person, myself, spoke up and said, "You guys suck." And
he could have been lying.
There
right?
weren't 40 people that said that you guys suck.
You do know he could have been lying.
Mm.
I work in the corporate world.
No, he was seriously like shocked. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know, man. Managers are something else.
I don't know. I don't believe
Well,
him.
I'm sorry, Nathan, that happened to you.
Anyways, I just want people to speak up when
and
they're
your faith in humanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, this experience aside, I did get to see it again, and I'm very happy I got to see my missing 9 minutes. Anyways, let's get into the crux of this movie. Rocket's journey, I think, is what was a huge part of this. I found this to his backstory to be a very harrowing experience, seeing him abused in these cages and interacting with these experimented animals, floor, sky, teeth.
I like the subtext from the other movies of like, why does he steal prosthetic parts all the time?
They reminded me of Sid's toys from Toy Story. I got that.
Yeah.
They creeped the hell out of me.
So reading the old comics, it was always strange to see like the weird animals, the weird sentient animals with the otters and the stuff from his home world, or that weird Counter Earth. So I was like, and it was always just kind of this weird, almost a dystopian utopia. Everything was beautiful, but it was like strange, and they did the experiments, and it was never as twisted, which is why I was wondering, like, if they're going to go into, the higher intelligence guy, and this world, what's it going to look like? And I know with it being like James Gunn and it being modern and it fitting the MCU, I didn't think it would be. They couldn't do like this lush greenery planet with this like weird 70s like psychotropic, So I was hoping that it was done well and didn't, suck or go too far off the, rails. This was such a cool modernization of it, and it being so dark and twisted, and the like where you get like maybe from the 70s you get like an otter with nodes wearing like nodes on its head. Now you've got this twisted machine rabbit, and you've got this like walrus with wheels, cuckoo kachoob.
And I felt like his eyes like held open extra wide, and like there was some device. It was so well done and disturbing. It was
so crazy, and just to see animals treated that way too, it's like woof.
I thought there was going to be more of a commentary on animal rights in this movie. I don't feel like it. I mean,
I'm glad there wasn't. Like, it wasn't like a hit you over the head kind of a thing.
It wasn't, and I thought it was going to go there.
Yeah,
but I'm
glad it was more of a like, it's happening, and not like this is why you were all bad people, like a Sarah McLachlan commercial.
There was a moment at the end of this movie where, and I don't mean to jump way ahead to the end, but where Rocket is getting all the kids off of the ship, and then he sees all the animals in the cages. And I thought there was going to be this moment where he was going to sacrifice himself, or he was going to do something to save the animals, but he wasn't going to be able to save himself or something like that. There was going to be more of a gut punch with these.
He sort of did that, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but I had this deep pit in my stomach that something bad was going to happen.
He died twice in the movie, didn't he?
Did he? No.
He almost. What, are you kidding me? He was up in the sky with the otter woman lady, and he was like, "It's not your turn yet." He died like.
Did he?
No, just
yes.
Why can't I remember that?
Well, I mean, he
died like twice in the goddamn movie.
I guess. I mean,
Dad,
he only. I only thought of him dying one time, where he went into
but technically he was down for the count. The whole reason they did all the shit was because he was in the ship with the. Oh my god!
Yeah, but they wouldn't have gone. They wouldn't have gone.
But the only time I feel like he was dead is when he was missing that device that he
I'm just
needed.
telling you that he, sacrificed himself pretty much twice.
Okay.
Well, I, being that I love, I am plant-based eater.
Gross.
I appreciate this movie.
I can't eat anything without a face.
I
Plant murderer?
appreciate. No, oh my god, plant. Did you just call me plant murderer?
Yeah.
You're funny. I never heard serial killer of plants. Okay, it felt really good that this movie centered in on Rocket because he's so cute, and I just love the fact that he's an animal, and I hate it. The villain, like I wanted to strangle him, for doing those things to the little animals, and just the fact that this actually happens in this planet Earth, even though this is the other planet that he created. What do they call it? I forget what they call that.
Counter Earth.
The Counter Earth. And that was funny, by the way, when they're coming in the spaceship down to land in Counter Earth, and the people look like humans, but then they look over and it's like that oink pig's face. And I'm thinking, all I could think was an episode of the Twilight Zone. I don't know if you guys watched the Twilight Zone, but there's an episode that has never left me. I was younger than when I watched it, and it's just humans, but they have the face of a pig.
Oh yeah,
And-
with the plastics where they take the wrapper off the
It creeped me out, and so in this movie, that's what you see the first thing, and these people are like afraid of these people coming through, and I just love that. Because that's happening in this planet. Like people are being cruel to animals. So I really
You
appreciate.
brought up Counter Earth. I need maybe Dan. You seem to be more the expert on this. I need some clarification on Counter Earth. So is this a planet that's in our solar system? I was trying to look this up. It's on the opposite side of our sun.
He created it as a place to house his
So
experiments.
the high evolutionary not only is this able to create this species of animals, he also created a planet.
So he seeds the so you remember in the movie. I don't know. You didn't remember what Rocket did, but let us see if you remember this.
I remember what Rocket did.
I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. You remember in the movie how he was burning Counter Earth and then sending the children out into another. So he basically seeds the planet. So like he finds like an M2 class, rock that can house life, breathe oxygen. M2 class. If you're a nerd, you know what that is. You want to start, yeah. So he finds like and he throws them into it, right? He seeds it, like he populates the M2 class, and then it builds a society. So he put those people there, the animal people, the pigs and whatnot, people there, and they made Earth to be like Earth. But then their society developed crime, as you saw, and drugs and poverty, and it's like, no, I need that. It was supposed to be the next step in evolution. What are you doing? So he burned it all, right? And this is why he came up with the kids that were like, joop, joop, dabba, joop. Those kids were going to be the next, right? So
Okay.
Rocket was like supposed to be this thing, but then he realized Rocket solved the problem of the real thing. So he was going to kill Rocket. And then that was the next step. And the next step that Rocket fixed, remember he fixed them? That was Counter Earth's people. Those people developed society with crime and drugs. He's going to kill them and have the Jupe Jupes. So he's constantly trying to create the master race, not to be, not to go too far back in history here.
Yeah.
But he's essentially trying to create this master species to have this highly elevated world, right? But he's never going to be satisfied.
All right, I'm glad you explained that, Dan, because I felt like that was so quickly glossed over why he was destroying the civilization. I mean, I saw that it was quickly devolving with the crime and whatnot.
Yeah, a lot of it is subtext because when when he takes Rocket, when he's like kind of like teaching Rocket, when Rocket's like Sky, and he's like hanging out with him as a little baby coon. When they go like, he takes him into that chamber and he's like, why do they keep doing this? And he shows him the chamber with the creature, the developing into violence. And then Rocket's like says a bunch of science words that I don't remember, but he's like, it's the chemicals and it's too much. And he boops and bops and he fixes it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And this sets off the High Evolutionary
he's done with Rocket. He's done with. He's like, how did you know that? Why did you know that? And he figures it out. And then I'm going to take your brain out because your brain did the thing I wanted, but you're useless now. I need your brain, and that's all I need. Right? He was going to take Rocket's brain.
Yeah.
You know? So I just need your brain. Because I made that. I made you. You don't tell me. I made this brain. I made it. It's mine. And I did this. You didn't do this because the High Evolutionary's vanity, right? His pride was hurt. That his creature Rocket, this lower level thing,
he one-upped him.
So he's like, I'm gonna take your brain, and that's it. And so it was kind of like subtextual in that, because like you watch that happen, and you kind of derive from that, like, okay, this is, and then you get all that subtext, and you get actual scenes of the High Evolutionary saying these things, and so you're like, oh, that's his constant quest is to use these things and to. He doesn't care about life, but he's creating life, but he doesn't care about it really. And then as you go through, like Nate mentioned, you see the de-evolution of the Counter Earth as they're driving around.
Yeah. It's
kind of like it's visual and subtextual in that regard. And you see the breakdown. And then again, you get the exposition. He says a couple things. He doesn't do a lot of monologuing, which is nice for a villain. So a lot of it is kind of like visual and subtextual, but I was just really looking forward, and you could tell I'm really into it, but I was really looking forward to that and how they would handle that, like the different evolutions, because there are different evolutions from Rocket, and that's the whole point that's why Rocket was excommunicated, or kind of like, a bastard of where he came from, because he got away or went away. And I was very interested in how they were going to do that in this, and see the different evolutions and have it all make sense.
I want to mention, I think my favorite sequence of the film was when they were visiting the orgoscope. And they actually, I think it's probably the best set piece of any of the Guardians movies.
The living
satellite. I love when they actually carve in and they remove the fleshy segment of it, and the sound design of that. It's it has this tangible nature to it. Fatty acids, liquids are come out, squirting out, which I thought was great. And I have to compare this to, the recent Marvel movie that came out, Ant-Man, which, I think both of these movies were probably filmed in a very similar way in the volume and many scenes, but where I felt like Ant-Man, I think when we were reviewing that, Ellie, you, me, and Sam, we were saying that it really felt like these actors were never together, and it felt like they were always isolated in the way they shot this. But I felt like this was done so much better. And I think it just comes from the fact that James Gunn knew what he was doing in this. And I think, was it Peyton Reed was the director of the Ant-Man movies. And it's just the love that Gunn has for this franchise just really comes through. And it was just so much more seamless. He cares too much to put out a shoddy product. And I think that shows. It was so great seeing Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion's role in this was one of the best characters also in this as well.
I love the repeating joke of, I got one of those too.
I got one of those. Yeah, that came up a couple of times. Yeah. That whole sequence, highlight of the movie, that whole sequence was the high bar for me, possibly in this entire franchise. Everything that took place in the orgoscope, Peter Quill and him in the tension between him and Gamora as he's trying to I can woo this girl over here as they're trying to get that.
And it was just a distract. That was another cool thing of James Gunn's writing of that character. In the first two movies, it was a little bit more over the head, with his like slapdash planning always kind of panned out. In this movie, you really, even the audience got tricked a couple times where like you really thought he was doing X. Like even the audience, like his plan wasn't so upfront to the audience this time.
Yeah.
And then it was like, nope, I did it. Like he kind of like subverted those
Exactly.
tropes. Yeah.
I just realized Sean Gunn is the brother of the.
Yeah. And
Just
it's so
realized
nice that
that.
he actually got a little bit of an arc in this movie too.
Mm-hmm.
He's been having that little through line. Did you see the
Yeah.
Christmas special?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
come
I
on
didn't
with
see the
your
Christmas special.
with your opinions.
It was okay.
It was amazing.
I wasn't that, and there was the Werewolf by Night other special they had. I thought they were
That was really good too. I like those one-offs, but the Guardians Christmas special was awesome because it gave you.
So, dude, all I know you do is at the very end of this movie when he's back to Earth and he's eating cereal.
Yeah,
Peter. I haven't had cereal.
Yeah.
I have not had a bowl of cereal in forever. Like forever. I don't eat cereal ages now.
But it was a great way of ending it, just on a mundane conversation about the neighbor mowing the lawn. That's just a great,
just wanted that
arbitrary way of
like,
ending.
why doesn't his son do it?
Yeah. Anyways, Adam Warlock. Anyone? Am I alone in this? I felt like extra character that didn't really do much for me.
Yes, you're alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're all alone.
I'm all alone.
No, there are people on the internet who agree with you, but you could always find people on the internet who agree with you.
Okay.
No, there are people that say that he was like underused or whatnot, but I feel like it was a good amount, and I feel like if they're gonna come back and do, sort of Gen 2, like kind of this, but. Don't give me that noise. I know that noise. You mean
it just feels like we're just setting up future things, but it had nothing to do with this movie.
We should. That's fine. Why does everything need to be now, Nathan?
Because it's
Adam
like
Warlock
fat.
was already
It felt like fat.
Adam Warlock was already introduced at the end of the first Guardians movie. So
he had to be there.
So we get payoff in this one a little bit. We get the death of that one we've been waiting for, his mother there. And then we find out that whole race of people was created by the Higher Evolutionary. And so we get Adam Warlock's turn and redemption and sets him up for Generation 2. It was great. I disagree with all you nerds out there who are like, underused. Wasn't underused. It was used correctly, and it may be used again. So stop hating things before they come out, or hating things because somebody touched you when you were a kid. Just enjoy what you're getting. When Dan Martin was 9-10 years old reading these comic books, if you would have told me that there would be this multi-million-dollar, multi-camera, crazy, action-packed, everything you read was gonna pop out of the screen and poop in your mouth, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have been like, I would have said you're crazy. Comic book movies back then were like, they were terrible. You remember like that Captain America movie with like the weird guy with the acoustic guitar and the weird stuff. I wouldn't have believed you. I would have been like, no, everything's stupid. Now you're in your 40s. They didn't ruin your childhood. If you remember back to your childhood, everything sucked. Everything sucked, you idiots. Everything was terrible when you were a kid. You just thought it was cool because you used your imagination. Now your imagination is literally tickling your eyeballs and you hate it? Shut up. Shut up. It was amazing.
I'm just saying, I didn't find Adam Warlock's Space Jesus all that interesting to me.
I get it. No, I agree with you. It's fine.
By the way, okay, you want to know something funny? I didn't know Bradley Cooper was the voice of Rocket.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I
I
didn't
have
know.
I'm sorry. I have no rant for you.
I did. Oh, thank you. No, because
I'm just
I'm
sad
not
for you.
you're sad for me.
Yeah.
I'm a bit out of you. I'm gonna make you eat plants. Okay.
Plants
you
go
love
very
plants?
good with a
You
steak.
can eat Groot. He's plant.
Listen, Groot. I don't like that Groot got big. I like him little.
You'd eat baby Groot?
He started
Yes.
big.
I don't want him to
I like
be
the
He goes
old.
full kaiju in this.
I like the
Yeah.
I do. He does kaiju Groot. I like the different Groot evolutionaries.
Yeah.
They're great.
I don't.
Yeah.
I
I
want
like
baby Groot forever.
Adolescent Groot. He's like bodybuilder Groot.
I like
Yeah,
I like stacked Groot. I like muscular Groot.
He's
I like
muscular.
John Carpenter, the thing head Groot a lot in this.
I was gonna say I like tentacle Groot too. Yeah.
A lot of cool references in this movie. I think we're probably pretty much. Oh, we have to say the very end. Groot's line. We actually hear him say, "I love you guys." I loved that moment. James Gunn did confirm that it isn't Groot who is speaking English, but because we are all part of the family, we can understand Groot speaking.
Yep.
So I thought that was a nice touch.
I didn't need him to confirm that because I discerned it with my brain, but I'm just kidding.
He's so smart.
No, I didn't get that. I did get that because Gamora's through line of her.
Yeah.
Like I understood that's what they were going for, but it's cool that he confirmed it because it's like some people did argue that he speaks English now, but no, it's. It would have been great if he was like, "It's all about family," and it was like a tie into Fast 10. It was a tie into Fast 10.
I thought you were saying watch Fast X opening next week. It was the first time I actually. Wow, that does sound like Vin Diesel for the first time.
Yeah. I love you guys. That was great. Sorry, by the way, I ranted a few times in this episode, so I hope you enjoyed.
All right. Well, I think we're good with our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Sir.
What?
Are either one of these any good?
I don't watch movies.
Well, have you heard anything about either one of them?
I find it's best to stay out of other people's affairs.
You mean you haven't heard anybody say anything about either one of these?
Nope.
Well, what about these two?
Oh, they suck.
Let's get to our recommendation shelf. And this week we are featuring films with great movie soundtracks. As even though maybe Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 wasn't the best soundtrack, but the prior movies did have some good soundtracks. Let's have some recommendations offered up by our hosts here. Who would like to begin with that? Dan, how about you go first?
I'm always going first on this thing.
Yeah, because you're our guest of honor.
So I'm going to recommend actually. So, I mean, you could say a lot about me. If you could see me right now, you could guess a lot of things. What do I, Ellie? I'm going to leave this to you because you could see me visually, physically. What do I looking at me? Just look at me, right? Mm-hmm. What's my favorite movie? Looking at me.
Looking at you, your favorite movie?
Yep. Just be as generic as you. Just looking at me. What do you think I like?
What a way to put me on the spot. Okay.
Do it. Based on how I look. I get this a lot. So a lot of people say Star Wars, and they're wrong. But
Dragon Slayer.
You know what?
I don't know what that is.
I was gonna say Animal House.
Okay, great. Don't even think I saw that full movie. My favorite movie
what the heck? You gotta
in the whole
it.
wide world is Trainspotting. That is top 10 list. Trainspotting is my favorite movie.
What's that about? I don't
it's
even
one of
know
my favorite books. Irving Welsh is one of my favorite authors. So for the recommendation shelf for the soundtrack, I recommend the Trainspotting soundtrack. It has Joy Division, Bowie, Iggy Pop, Goldie. It's got some house.
Lou Reed.
Yeah, it's got Lou Reed. It's got Primal Scream. There's so many good songs on that album. And also, if you and there's like an excerpt from the movie, the Choose Life, like kind of spoken word thing that at the beginning. And if you're a fan of the movie, this is one of the soundtracks that you hear a song and you see the scene. For me, it's a visceral soundtrack. That movie came out in 1996. I was turning 16. I saw it at the Avon on Thayer Street. It was just one of the first kind of indie films I went out to see by myself. Like, kind of went and saw in a theater that wasn't one of the mainstream theaters. Sort of like hanging out with my friends.
I have to watch it.
And one of the first novels of its type I kind of read. You know, I was like, in 96, if you brought a book like Trainspotting to school, you know,
you'd be in trouble.
You were getting in trouble. Yeah, it was one of those books they would have burned if they paid more attention. You know,
Jesus,
those buttholes.
I was teaching high school in 1996.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so great soundtrack, great movie. Yeah, so that's my recommendation.
Relinquishing junk, stage 1, preparation. For this you will need 1 room which you will not leave, soothing music, tomato soup, 10 tins of, mushroom soup, 8 tins of, for consumption cold, ice cream, vanilla, 1 large tub of, magnesia, milk of, 1 bottle, paracetamol, mouthwash, vitamins, mineral water, Lucasade, pornography. 1 mattress, 1 bucket for urine, 1 for feces, and 1 for vomitus. 1 television and 1 bottle of Valium, which I've already procured from my mother, who is, in her own domestic and socially acceptable way, also a drug addict.
It was on my short list as well, Dan. I really thought about it. I love that film. I saw it in a theater as well, probably the same year. I didn't really get an appreciation for it until I watched it on DVD because I needed the subtitles to really fully.
Oh, so I had read the book.
Yeah.
And the author writes in that style. He spells it out phonetically.
Yeah. And
so the Scottish characters' accents are spelled out almost. So when I saw the movie, I was like, what the hell? Like when they did the subtitles, I was like, this is in English. What are they talking about?
Yeah. I struggle with Scottish accents in movies, and there's a lot of movies where like I need the subtitles these days to.
Well, there's the one scene they subtitled in the theater. The one scene that they subtitled was Begbie in the club because his accent's Robert Carlyle's accent is so thick. But then the other scene they subtitled in the actual theater was just the one where it's the nightclub and it's loud. But you're talking about you watched the whole movie with subtitles?
Oh, I watch anything that's got those thick Scottish accents. I watch now with subtitles on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Trainspotting was on your short list. What's on your main?
Well, I'll go next. My recommendation this week may surprise some people because after I expressed my love for the David Johansen music documentary featuring all that great glam rock and, of course, all the music that I liked from the Guardians movies. But the movie I'm recommending this week is the 2000 release from Danny Boyle titled The Beach, starring a young, fresh off the heels movie Titanic.
Wait, we both had Danny Boyle movies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. How about that? We both have Danny Boyle movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this movie is criminally underrated, by the way. Leo's character is on a journey to find himself. He's sort of a disenfranchised 20-something, and he hears rumors about this vacation paradise in the Pacific Southwest, and he's determined to find it. He finds it, and it's occupied by these other people who are
it's Logan's Run.
The wanderers, lost souls who are there like him, seeking the meaning and purpose of their lives. I think it's a really cool character study. But the reason why I'm recommending it this week is because it has a really wonderful soundtrack. It includes this early 2000s combination of American and British electronica, acid house, trance, and club music from artists like Moby, Orbital, New Order, Brian Eno. There's many more. When we settled on this topic for our recommendations this week, this film was immediately shortlisted, as was yours, Dan, because when I think about this film, I can't separate the film from the soundtrack. And I think that's a sign of a great movie soundtrack. So The Beach is currently on streaming on Stars, and it's on VOD. I remember.
Whenever I hear the word Trainspotting, in my head I hear the Lust for Life. If you say Trainspotting, I hear Lust for Life.
Yeah.
And I can't, it's like so crazy how ingrained that is in my head.
And when I hear The Beach, which is probably a lesser movie, I think of Moby. And so yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my pick.
Also a weird fact about me, up until recently, I buy every copy of Trainspotting I find. Like if I at like thrift stores, or like stores used, I go through the used. If there's a copy of Trainspotting, I buy it and I give it to someone, or I just buy it to. I had like 6 copies of it at one point. And I have a VHS copy of it still.
Oh, wow. Cool.
VHS and Blu-ray. Yeah.
All right. Ellie, what have you got for a pick?
Forrest Gump.
Sounds good.
So I'd like to hear more about this because I can't even think of as one piece of music from that movie. Seriously, I've got no connection to it.
Okay.
You're nothing but a hound dog. That's one of the songs in this film.
It's got a huge soundtrack because it's huge. It sprawls decades and decades. The movie.
It's like 6 weeks long, right? It's going.
Oh my god! It's got one of my favorite bands, Creedence Clearwater. A Fortunate Song. I mean, I love every piece of song in this.
I know that song, and I could picture that song in so many movies. But no, I cannot think of one scene for Forrest Gump. It's so crazy.
Sugar pie, what's it? Sugar pie, honey bun.
Yep.
You know that I love you. That's the Four Tops, the Beach Boys.
So it has a very Americana.
Oh yeah, it's loaded with like your American Top 40 music from 60s through probably the early 80s or so.
One of those like indicative
maybe
of
70s
its times kind of a thing. Yeah.
I'll be damned.
Sir, where are you running?
Why are you running? Are you doing this for world peace?
Are you doing this for the homeless?
Are you running for women's rights?
Or for the environment?
Or for animals?
They just couldn't believe that somebody would do all that running for no particular reason.
Why are you doing this?
I just felt like running. I just felt like running.
It's you. I can't believe it's really you.
Now, for some reason, what I was doing seemed to make sense to people.
I mean, it was like an alarm went off in my head, you know? I said, here's a guy that's got his act together. Here's somebody who's got it all figured out. Here's somebody who has the answer. I'll follow you anywhere, Mr. Gump.
So, I got company. And after that, I got more company. And then, even more people joined in. Somebody later told me it gave people hope.
It's got one of my favorite songs is California Dreaming. So yeah, I listen to this. I can listen to all this music.
It's a double CD, isn't it?
Yep.
Is that why?
Yeah, I remember. It's a double CD.
Oh yeah.
I remember the physical. I remember it. I remember it holding it in my hands. I don't know if I owned it or what the hell I did with it. But I remember it was a white, like the movie cover.
It is
double CD.
Yeah,
with
32 American classics on 2 CDs.
You can't see me, but you guys can, and you can tell the audience, not once have I looked away from my camera. My hands are right here. I haven't Googled anything. Blue fonts, I want to say, on the lettering in the back. And I remember it. Yeah, and I remember it. I remember the discs were silver with black writing.
Maybe.
But I can't remember one goddamn moment of that movie with a song in it. Just
Dude, it's got it only has some of the best songs ever.
And I can picture the soundtrack, and like Nate said, 32 songs, probably lots of top 40 hits.
Oh, it's loaded. Mrs. Robinson, California Dreaming,
Sweet Home Alabama,
Blown in the Wind, Land of a Thousand Dances, Raindrops Falling on My Head.
Well, it didn't have I Got AIDS by Guar, which would have been perfect for the second half of the movie.
No, you're funny.
When I hear Forrest Gump and music, I can't help but think of Gump by Weird Al, and that's the only thing I think of.
So I like the movie Forrest Gump. I like the music that they used in this. I never listened to the soundtrack because the reason why is because I think these are singles that they just collected and threw on a
listening
soundtrack
to the radio. Right.
It's exactly. It's like I could make a Spotify playlist and do the same thing. And that's how I've always felt about, and I'm not disrespecting your list, Ellie, this movie. In this movie, when I watch this movie, I think the music is great for this movie. But I always when I was in college, this movie was huge. The soundtrack was huge. And I could hear the soundtrack playing out of every single dorm room all the time. But like, I listened to this music growing up because my dad listened to like the classic rock stations, the oldies stations, and like, I know this music. This
There's
did
so
not.
many movies that like that.
Yeah,
like how there's tons of trailers that just use Sweet Dreams.
So
like, how many trailers have you seen? That's like Sweet Dreams.
The 4th of July, the 4th of July soundtrack is kind of similar too.
Yeah. A lot of movies
a lot of
do
the
that.
war movies.
It kind of reminds me of like if you're dating or getting to know somebody and you're like, hey, what's your favorite band? And they're like, oh, the Beatles. And you're like, oh, really? Really? Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. So you like music. What was it? But what's your favorite band? Of course, the Beatles. It's like, well, you like food? Yeah, I love bread. Bread.
You like
Bread's
stuff?
my favorite. Yeah, I like bread. Okay, you like a staple of food, but what?
Ellie, it is a very good pick because the soundtrack was huge. The movie,
epic.
The movie, exactly. It was an epic movie with a great soundtrack.
That soundtrack just keeps running and running and running.
I love all songs. So anything that has anything regarding like the old band. I wasn't into like I like folk music, like sort of like the Clear Credence Water there, but I don't like the big. Yeah, but I don't really like the like hard rock in the past. Like I'm not a Led Zeppelin fan, but people kill me for saying that. But I don't care for Led Zeppelin.
Well, you're not alone. A lot of people love the soundtrack. So, all right, we're going long tonight. So let's move. Let's get to our wrap up here. Hang on. And the only thing I'll mention about upcoming releases is this weekend comes the 10th installment of the Fast and the Furious franchise. This one is directed by Louis Leterrier. He's known for the Transporter franchise. He did the Incredible Hulk, Clash of the Titans. And you know what I really did like that he did a couple of years ago? He did the Dark Crystal series on Netflix, which I think was short-lived, and I'm sad that did not last. But he took over from James Wan. He left the production in the middle of production. But Dan or Ellie, are you into the Fast and the Furious franchise?
Oh, I love it so much.
I got my tickets already.
You really? I
do.
Okay.
I have tickets.
I have not seen any of them after I think the 7th movie. I fell off this franchise.
Not me.
And
Charlize Theron is in this movie, so
she is.
I am in love with her.
There's a huge cast: Vin Diesel, Jordana Brewster, Tyrese Gibson, Michelle Rodriguez, Ludacris, Jason Momoa, John Cena, Rita Moreno, Helen Mirren, Brie Larson, and of course Charlize Theron. So there is gigantic cast. How are they going to fit all these people in this movie?
Two of my favorites, Charlize and Helen. Oh, yeah, I have to watch it.
So, well, you guys can enjoy it. I may someday catch up with this franchise. We'll see.
It's my favorite. It goes all the way to 11. It is just batshit. It's just the craziest, stupidest series, and it gets worse and better every time. I mean, they flew a car to space in the last one. What are they gonna do next? It's the best.
All right.
I'm watching it.
All right.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'm not going to your theater though. It sounds like they burn the place down once a week.
All right. So I think that is it. Thank you, Dan, so much for joining us this week.
Thank you, guys. This was incredible.
All right. And you can find Dan's we'll put your information in the show notes. One more time, plug where we can find you.
It's just Dan Martin Comedy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and go to stadiumtheater.com for your tickets for June 2nd with Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Yeah. Find him.
Yeah.
Dan's a funny guy. So, yeah.
Enjoy that.
All right.
That's great.
All right. So that is the show. Thank you for tuning in. Back to the Frame Rate is part of the Weston Media Podcast Network. It's always helpful to go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. And you can email us directly at backtotheframerate@gmail.com. We'd love to get some feedback and tell us what you think of the show. We would love to get your feedback. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Back to the Frame Rate. And we have a Twitter account, even though Dan doesn't believe in Twitter, and that's fine with us. But we have a handle that maybe we should get a better one someday. I don't know. It's Back Frame Rate. And someday, Ellie, you're going to do a TikTok for us, right? How's that TikTok coming along, Ellie?
It's coming. I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking what would be that fresh video.
That's up to you. We'll be TikToking with all the TikTokers out there.
Is Dan? Are you on TikTok then? You have to follow
I am on TikTok at Dan Martin Comedy.
All right. So
what is it called? Dan what?
Dan Martin Comedy.
Okay.
TikTok is coming for Back to the Frame Rate.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Nice.
Stay tuned.
Keep your eyes percolated. All right. So that is it. The show is over.
I love it.
All of you, thank you again. Have a great week, everyone. Goodbye.
Adios.
I want you to know it's over. Well, bye.